Part 2.
Next, I'm going to talk about why I wear a bra. So I'm on the antipsychotic risperidone. Risperidone increases the hormone prolactin. Prolactin is involved with having a baby and can cause breast development and milk production even in men. Prolactin is thought to also aid in bonding with the baby. Despite my breasts still growing back slightly after my breast reduction, there are a few reasons why I want to stay on the medication risperidone. Firstly, I could change to a different antipsychotic like olanzapine that has less effect on levels of the hormone prolactin. The issue is, as well as treating my bipolar, risperidone also specifically treats irritability and autism, and possibly other issues with autism. Whereas I'm not sure if olanzapine has this, treats it as well. While I don't think I would want to cure my autism, I have a lot of anxiety around feeling anger. If you've grown up in an environment where anger was expressed in a very negative way, like rage, you worry that if you're angry in the slightest way, then it's a bad thing and it therefore makes you a bad person, just for feeling anger. I don't want to switch to the other antipsychotic olanzapine because I might be more irritable on it and I worry I might take it out on people and negatively affect people. The second reason I want to stay on risperidone is because prolactin is involved with having a baby and bonding with a baby. I worry prolactin therefore may make you more kind and caring and loving, and that you might have a stronger acute response to cute things. I value being very kind and caring, and I value that I have a strong cute response. I even find mites and worms cute, and I love tiny creatures. I don't want to stop finding them cute. With OCD, I care about being the nicest, most moral, perfect person. I don't want to be even slightly less perfect, even if it means having boobs. Another thing is that sometimes high prolactin levels can reduce testosterone. I worry if I come off the antipsychotic risperidone, my testosterone may increase. I may be more aggressive and only care about sex and have lots of problematic behaviours towards women because of it. I saw this nature documentary, and when the animals' testosterone increased, they were trying to fight literally everything, and they were trying to mate with everything. I don't want to be like that. My sister said, though, that I can grow a beard in a day, and that I have a really hairy chest which pokes through the top of my top, so my testosterone levels are probably not low at all. This made me feel better, as I don't want to be an aggressive, dominant alpha male. My OCD around insects, worms and mites is a bit better, and I've actually started running as well as pole dancing. It was a bit uncomfortable to run with boobs, and so that's why I bought a bra. Here's why I breastfed earthworms. So as you know, I have high levels of prolactin, and this can make even men produce milk. Antipsychotics can genuinely make men lactate. I'm not making that up. Previously, I hadn't wanted to have any pets, but I also thought that something to look after would be very beneficial to me and keep me occupied and feel like I was doing something to help things, like being productive. My OCD would normally make me think if I'm getting a pet to help me, then it's selfish and I should be getting a pet to help the animals. This put me off getting pet worms for a while. I didn't realise that earthworm composting is actually really good for the environment. When I found out about earthworm composting, I decided I would get pet worms. By doing things like stopping myself from having any pets, I'm limiting my life. And it just made my whole life just shrink, the amount of things I could do in life. This made me think getting earthworms would expose me to the anxiety while still being beneficial to the environment. Long story short, I got into composting. I read that apparently you can put a small amount of dairy products in a compost. That's just what I read, and so I can't give any advice. I don't want to be responsible for anyone else harming worms because of any advice I give, so don't take any of my advice. But anyway, I thought a very small amount of dairy products would be all right for the earthworms. Like, people will genuinely feed cardboard and whole cotton t-shirts to earthworms. And that is, like, true. I've heard earthworms can eat some amount of meat as well, apparently, and to an extent in biology, there's not really such thing as true carnivores or true herbivores. Earthworms will even eat poo, and I did actually have the intrusive thought to poo in my worm compost, but I decided it would be unsanitary, and that's why I also don't really feed meat to worms. So just for clarity, I did not actually poo in the worm farm or the worm compost or whatever. So I thought if I just put a few drops of milk in the compost and mixed it into the soil so it was diluted, then it couldn't do much harm. So I did add like some milk to the soil, but just a few drops. And so I thought I would use just a few drops of my own milk that I produced myself. I did it just so I could tell people I did it, and it would be a funny story. That's why I technically breastfed earthworms with milk I produced myself, thanks to antipsychotics and high levels of the hormone prolactin. I wanted to express my caring and nurturing feelings towards earthworms and my affection towards them in a maternal way. And that's how I did it because, like, I guess people say people become like nurses or healthcare workers or therapists because of their maternal instincts. And normally I'd associate that with women, but like, I want to be caring as well. Like, like, you know, like, why can't I be a nurse? Or, well, I was a nurse, but like, why is it just associated with maternal instincts and not like men as well? So yeah, I just thought I'd express my maternal instincts. Yeah. Traditional gender roles are such that women do the housework and look after the children or care for other family members while men go to work and are the provider. Here's why I do housework and care for tiny creatures that are like my children. First, it is important to note that I am no longer a geriatric nurse because my mental health stops me from working. I still want to do things to help other people, so I dry dishes, hoover, carry shopping home, make my family teas and coffees, and hang it washing out and take it in. When taking washing in, I care for tiny creatures as if they're my children. There ends up being lots of insects or spiders crawling on the washing. I don't want the tiny creatures to get into the house because it's not their natural environment, and so the tiny creatures may feel less happy, or even die if I take the washing into the house without removing them. I blow on all the tiny creatures off the washing before I take the washing back into the house. In psychology, women normally get called the primary attachment figure. The relationship between the child and the mother is often emphasized as more important than between the child and the father. I'm not well enough to have children, and I wouldn't want children anyway because they may inherit my mental health conditions, or I would not be able to look after them properly. I'd like to think I'm still a caring and nurturing person, and I still care for worms and other creatures as if they're my babies. It's normally dads you hear about abandoning their kids, and not mums abandoning their kids. It makes you feel shame or guilt for being a man. Like I said, I'm going to make sure I don't have kids, but I still do the housework to help my family and to care for tiny creatures, which I view as my babies. I was genuinely my grandma's carer as well. I blow the tiny creatures off the washing instead of like brushing them off with my finger or hand because they're so tiny, they must be like really delicate, especially their tiny little legs. And so I just blow them off. So I'm very gentle and delicate with them. So I'm a very gentle and delicate person. Sometimes when I gracefully blow the insects and spiders off the washing, I worry because even though I'm blowing them off instead of like brushing them off with my hands, I still worry because they're so delicate and like, I mean, like you have to blow them quite strongly, otherwise they just don't come off. So I worry, am I blowing them too hard? And like, I don't know, like when have you heard like when you sneeze and stuff that apparently it's like really fast, like the speed of a car or something like that. As like I don't sneeze on them, but like I have to blow on them quite hard to get them off the wash, and so it's like I'm actually hurting them, and like I mean, it's probably better for them than like brushing them off with your hands, but I don't know. I even worry about that. Next, here's how my boobs saved a crab's life. Sometimes I go to the beach and look at rock pools. I get anxiety around slipping on the wet rocks, and I try to be careful, but occasionally I do slip. I saw a crab in the rock pool. I leaned over to get a closer look, and my feet slipped. I was holding my phone trying to take pictures of the crab, so I couldn't just stick out my hands out to break my fall. Either my jaw was going to land on the crab or my chest was. I have dental anxiety and don't want to damage my teeth. I also have body dysmorphia, and in people with this condition, it's oftentimes it's the face they care about the most. So if I landed on my jaw, I could damage my teeth or disfigure my jaw or face. This made me want to land on my chest, not my jaw. I was also conscious that there was a crab below me, and I also didn't want to harm the crab. I want to be clear that I don't exactly have double Ds, but at the same time I thought my boobs would cushion my fall onto the crab so that the crab wouldn't be as hurt. There was some water in the rock pool, and so my boobs alone would not have cushioned my fall, but the water in the rock pool was deep enough that in combination with the water, my boobs managed to cushion my fall. This is me explaining my rationale after the event happened, when I've had more time to think about things. But in the moment, I was aware of my jaw and the crab getting injured, and I changed my posture so my chest was sticking out, and the crab was fine. I still worried whether the crab was completely unharmed or whether I'd still slightly harmed it, but I did feel quite proud of myself, as it's hard to think about things in the moment. I don't know if my instincts or reflexes kicked in, but I saved a crab's life. That's how, even though I'm a man, I saved a crab's life with my boobs. This next part is going to sound hard to believe, so what you have to remember is I'm on antipsychotics for a reason. I've had psychosis before, and the psychiatrist thinks I have bipolar. Even though I'm a man, I tried go-go dancing in a go-go cage, and the go-go cage was suspended high up in the air, so I could dance around without stepping on any insects on the ground. What led me to doing this? Well, when no one's watching, I dance around a lot in my house. I feel like I dance around so much that I'd probably be quite good at it from all the practice. I go to a mental health service that runs various groups. Once a week they have a dancing group. I always felt too uncomfortable to dance in public, and so I didn't go there, and part of me really wanted to try hard and become more comfortable around people and unmask my autism to the point I felt like dancing. I'd also really wanted to go to a nightclub, but I haven't drank any alcohol in 7 years, and I haven't taken any other substances in that time either. Originally, this was because with my OCD, I worried if I was drunk, I may not have my inhibitions, and I worried I may do something terrible. Years later, I am glad I quit drinking because it is very common to have substance issues with bipolar, and I'm not drinking, and me not drinking is good for my mental health, as I used to have issues myself with substances. Anyway, this all meant normally I'd feel very uncomfortable in a nightclub being sober. If it was crowded, I would worry I was accidentally staring at people, and I would not know where to look. Up until that point, I really wanted to be able to feel comfortable dancing in public and comfortable going to nightclubs. Then I became fully manic. I finally felt confident enough to dance in public, and I could go to a nightclub without taking anything because I was high on life. Being in mania meant I felt comfortable enough to unmask my autism. I could finally be myself, and that brought me so much joy that I wanted to take it to the next level. I started going to nightclubs. I was dancing every night, and like when you're in mania, you just don't get tired. So I was just dancing all night, like every night, and it just didn't even feel tired because I had so much energy. So eventually I came across a nightclub that had an old cage suspended in the air. I asked what it was for, and they said it was a go-go cage that used to be used for go-go dancers. Before I tell you the next part, what you have to remember is with mania you can have inflated self-esteem and inflated confidence, and you can also have hypersexuality. So naturally, I thought I was the sexiest man alive, and that I wanted to strut my stuff and express myself. The person in charge was not going to let me in the cage. With bipolar, you can also spend lots of money, so I kept trying to pay the man more and more and more, till eventually they caved in and let me dance in the go-go cage. I don't know if part of the cage was missing, hence why I had previously not been allowed in it, but on the bottom of the cage were bars spread out with lots of gaps, just small enough that my feet didn't fall through. That was another factor as to why I had wanted to go to dance in the cage, because it meant I would not harm insects, because it was suspended in the air. All I was standing on were thin bars with lots of gaps between them. So there was so my feet went in contact with much stuff because of all the gaps. Because I was so manic, I wasn't that worried about my OCD, but I was aware that I wouldn't harm as many insects or mites, and I just thought that it was the most amazing opportunity that had ever happened to me. That's why, even though I'm a man, I briefly became a go-go dancer, dancing in a go-go cage, suspended in the air.